Morning, everybody. It is May 1st. New month. New month. So, yesterday, what a wild day yesterday was. We sold off right off the open. Looked really bad for a little bit. And then the market recovered big time. Big time. Right into the month end. Again, big green candle at the close. And basically closed, which is crazy, unchanged from the day before. We literally went to the previous day's settlement, the close, right at the candle close, which is pretty crazy. So for the day, it was flat. Now, Microsoft and Meta reported earnings. They beat and they are up substantially this morning. Microsoft's up almost 9%, Meta's up 6.65%. That is powering markets higher. All right, so that's the story this morning. Okay, now today we have more earnings. We have Apple and Amazon reporting after the close. So now Apple right now is down pre-market 1.42%. Amazon is up 3.83. Of course, that can all change with earnings after the close. This market had just what it needed, that liquidity that just sold off yesterday enabled it to fuel all the way back and above key levels. And we'll get into that, all right? So that's what's going on this morning. All right, so without further ado, welcome to my channel. My name is Steven Gonzalez. I use market profile and volume profile to find structure in the markets along with supply and demand, gamma exposure levels, the most traded price of the year, the month, the week, in the previous day. That is my edge. That's how I look at markets. That's how I construct game plans in the markets to tell me who's in control and where my bias might be for the day. All right. Also use market internals, which is now back to giving me my edge as well. So whenever I see the market, right? Whenever I see the market under the hood, it gives me a little more edge. And specifically yesterday, right? So yesterday, market was selling off. And what did I notice? I noticed that technology, which is 30% of the S&P weighting in the S&P 500, right, was not that weak. All right. Now in my Discord, I put this here. I'm going to show you guys what I just want to show you what outlier that I was looking at. All right. Let's see. Here's yesterday. Okay, this is when the market was still at the close to the bottom at like 10:18 a.m. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys what I wrote right here. All right, so at 10:18, I put internals are weak. You can see the weak internals, right? I said, however, hit key levels in the Nasdaq in the ES. Tech is green. See the lone green up here? This is why I have sectors off the open. What they're doing, right? Look at all the red and look at tech. Tech is what drives the markets. Okay, it's 30%. Tech is green off the open. So is semiconductors. Laggards are XLU, XLE, XLP. Well, within about 15 minutes later, look at the internals. Over zero, technology's up 0.59, and we're starting to rocket, right? I got long the QQQ at 464 yesterday. Okay, 464. And then real quickly, I'll show you one more thing that I didn't get a chance to post this, but I posted this to one of my friends that trades. So I posted this shot to him right here. Okay. We were talking about trades, and I said what made me get into that trade, because I think he was short at the time and I got long. I said we came to a bottom of a demand zone in the Nasdaq. Also, this anchored VWAP right here. This anchored VWAP from a recent low. Same thing in the ES, an anchored VWAP, and you double bottomed in an hourly candle in demand. And both of them pretty much touched almost single prints and then started to get buying, right? Another thing that I was telling him was it's month end and we have big earnings after the close, which is the Meta and the Microsoft, right? So I said, who wants to be holding that bag into those earnings, right? Once you took your profits, the shorts took profits. Who wants to be sitting there short when Microsoft and Amazon report after the close? So that's what was my mindset to go along, and it was just worth the risk. Obviously, wound up being a nice trade, so that's just my thought there. Okay. Now, so anyway, with that little story there I gave you, just join me every day. Give you the market story. Try to fill you in really what's going on in the markets. All right. Give you market news, economic calendar, the earnings calendar, I think I just said economic calendar, market news, leaders and laggards, and of course the daily charts, triple-headed monster, which is the bond market, the dollar and the VIX. Okay. And then we get into the market profile, volume profile, where I give my analysis on the Nasdaq and the ES. Okay. So this market always is trying to fool you. It makes it look like it's doing something and then does something else. Okay. That makes it not easy at all. It just doesn't make it easy, right? Because if you were looking at that market in the open yesterday, you were going to go, oh my God, we're selling off. And then boom, right? So we'll get into certain other things where seasonality came into play again. Because generally, market starts to go higher in April into May. And that happened right on cue. It made it look like it wasn't, but at the end of the day, you had a positive April. Right? It was not looking good. And then positive April. And there's certain things we're going to look at later just to show you where we're at. Maybe how I'm going to look at the market going into May. All right? So why don't we get right into futures and see what's moving markets here. All right, so Ethereum is leading the pack, up 3.70%. Bitcoin's up 2.48, Nasdaq's up 1.88, ES up 1.24, Dow's up 0.80, Russell up 0.55. The dollar is up. The dollar is up. Remember I said I was like looking at the dollar, maybe a bullish play. We'll have to see. 30-year bonds being bought. 10-year yield is down. So 10-year yield, remember what I was saying about that. We'll get into that later. Crude is getting destroyed. And I almost shorted crude when it broke the trend. But I didn't like where it was at. And now, poof, that would have been a monster. But silver's down 2.66. And gold is pulling back. Okay. Gold is definitely pulling back. Down 3.12%. They were due for some correction. All right. The VIX is down 3.44%. We're at a 23.85 VIX. All right. Moving on to the Mag 7 Plus here. And the leader of the pack is Microsoft. Blew out earnings with Azure, cloud, and AI and stuff like that. So that reignited the markets. All right. Up almost 9%. I'm glad I bought not too long ago. I bought some piece of Microsoft not too long ago. I think I got it at 380 something or something like that. Just a piece. All right, Meta, same thing. I bought around 480. So just a piece. So that makes this is pretty nice. Now I don't know. A lot of analysts are saying we're probably going to still revisit those lows. So like we don't know. Nobody knows what's going to happen, right? Nvidia's up 4.84. 4.85. Amazon up 3.83. Coinbase up 3.26. Broadcom up 3.13. And AMD up 2.77. Google up 1.18. All right. Tesla's up 0.72. Now we do have a laggard. Netflix down 0.28. Apple reports earnings today after the close. They are down 1.32%. There's some news on that. Eli Lilly reported earnings this morning, and they missed on their weight loss drug results. Not results, but the money coming in for it. Down 4.56%. Okay. Moving on to the sectors. That's the guts of the market. That's what moves markets. That's why I use my market internals. Okay, my market internals. Now, real quick, before we get into that, I just want to mention market internals. This is the market internals, how they shaped out yesterday. I showed you guys when it was negative, right? And then look what happened. Positive, 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 right? So it's very important why I use those sector weights, because then it tells me who's in charge, right? So this morning, the largest weighted sector in the markets is up 2.49%, followed by semiconductors, 2%. Communications at your Meta, 1.12. Discretion at your Tesla or Amazon, right? Laggards, staples, basic materials, all defensive, healthcare, down 0.42. Energy, down 0.78. Energy's getting destroyed, okay? That does that, okay? That is that. That's the look at the markets. We're going to get right into the economic calendar here for today. Now, we still have a lot of data still left in this market, okay, to look at. Because today we have initial jobless claims, 8:30. We have ISM manufacturing PMI and employment at 10 a.m. That's the morning. That's the morning, right? Tomorrow, non-farm payrolls and unemployment. It just gets bigger and bigger data, right? And then if we go to the we go to the earnings. We still have monster earnings today after the close. So we know we had those Microsoft, Meta, Robinhood, Qualcomm all reported, okay, after the close. This morning, Eli Lilly, Roblox, CVS beat, MasterCard, SiriusXM, McDonald's, Baxter, Shake Shack all reported this morning. Now, after the close today, Amazon, Apple, Riot, let's see, Airbnb, Reddit, Atlassian, AIG, they are all reporting after the close. Tomorrow, before the open, ExxonMobil, Fubu TV, Chevron, Cigna, Wendy's. Okay, there's that. Now, we go back here. All right, we go back here. We look at some results here. Meta Platforms stock climbed 6.2% after Facebook and Instagram parent reported better than expected first quarter results. Microsoft rose 8.8 after the software giant reported better than expected fiscal third quarter results issued surprisingly strong guidance as its key cloud business continued to ride AI fueled demand. Apple stock fell. Here we go. Stock fell 1.5% after a U.S. federal judge ruled that the iPhone maker violated a 2020 court injunction intended to spur competition within its app store, potentially exposing the tech giant to criminal contempt proceedings. Tesla stock rose 0.6 after chair Robin Denholm denied a Wall Street Journal story that the board was looking for a change as CEO, adding that the board is highly confident in Elon Musk's ability to continue executing on the exciting growth plan ahead. McDonald's stock fell 1.1% after the fast food giant posted a surprise decline in the first quarter global comparable sales. Eli Lilly stock dropped 4.1% after the drug maker posted better than expected first quarter revenue profit. General Motors stock rose 2.8 despite the auto giant lowering its full year guidance, reflecting an estimated impact of $4 billion to $5 billion due to tariffs. CVS Health stock rose 6.4 after the healthcare giant reported first quarter earnings that surpassed analyst estimates and raises full year guidance. Moderna stock fell 1.9 after the U.S. drug maker reported a first quarter loss, while its revenue plunged 35% year over year, missing expectations. Estee Lauder stock rose 0.4 after the cosmetics giant reported better than expected third quarter results, even as it cited ongoing challenges as its travel retail business subdued consumer sentiment in Asia. All right, now if we look at more news, I'm not going to repeat anything, so we just talked about all that. Now let's talk about right here. We'll just read the whole thing. Wall Street futures were trading higher, led by strong earnings from Microsoft and Meta, signaling continued strength in the technology sector. The upbeat results underscore how AI-driven demand is boosting growth in cloud computing and digital advertising, and helped calm jitters over an increasingly uncertain look due to U.S. tariff policy. Investors will also watch out for Apple and Amazon, with both set to report after the close. Okay, global trading volumes were light due to May Day holidays across Europe and other regions. In Asia, Japan's Nikkei closed higher after the Bank of Japan cut its growth and inflation forecasts, hitting a slower pace for future rate hikes. The FTSE 100 was little changed in the UK, and commodities In commodities, oil prices fell on reports of potential production increases from Saudi Arabia and weaker U.S. and economic data, while gold slipped as risk appetite grew and the dollar strengthened. On the U.S. data front, ISM manufacturing PMI is expected to dip to 48 for April, and weekly jobless claims are forecast to rise slightly to 24. All right. Now, like I said, if I see something here that I haven't talked about, then we'll talk about it. If not, we move on. I know Robinhood, good earnings. Retail trading platform first quarter profit more than doubled and beat analyst estimates on Wednesday. Qualcomm actually is down. The mobile chip designer forecasts third quarter revenue that would not meet estimates, joining other tech companies such as Snap and Samsung to voice concerns about effects of U.S. President Donald Trump trade war. Okay. What else here? All right. All right. Looks like obviously here we got Meta. Pivotal Research cuts target price to 830 from 875. Microsoft Davidson raises target price to 500 from 450. All right. That is the news. Did Juice have anything for us? Only thing we saw here was U.S. Treasury Secretary Bessent. The Chinese economy is slowing down substantially. We will likely revisit Trump's phase one trade deal. All right. Nothing in red. Let me see if there's any red here. All right. That's one. All right. All right. That's it. Let's go right into daily charts here. We got some levels to talk about. Actually, before we do that, got some breadth charts here. So here we go. Now, here's what I'm looking at. Remember, I use this chart, right? This is a very good indicator of when things are a little frothy, all right? So, or they're really oversold. All right, so you can see it right here. This is a percentage of stocks over the 20-day simple moving average in the S&P 500, and you can see how the S&P 500 up here reacts to it. Okay, now currently 81% of stocks in the S&P 500 are over the 20-day simple moving average. If you look to the left, okay, whenever we get up into this area from 80 to 90, that's usually where you get a little pullback in the markets. You can see, look up, we dip, right? Over here, we dipped a little bit. Up here, we dipped. So it's usually caution, not saying you can't go higher, right? Because we still can go into the 90s. But just look inversely, conversely, down at the lows. Like we were just down at only almost 1% of stocks in the S&P 500 were over the 200 or 20-day simple moving average. What was that? A bottom, right? Look here, right there, lined up right with those levels. Okay, now we're getting a little frothy, right? Now May, seasonality wise, typically is sell in May and go away. Seasonality, usually you kind of put a bottom in. You revisit lows or put some type of bottom in May, and then you get bought up seasonality wise. Okay, so if we look at seasonality here, this is a seasonality chart here. Give me a sec here while I get that right for you guys here. So seasonality. All right, so this blue line, this is for 10 years. Blue line is what it's done for 10 years. So you can see, generally, March is the highest volume, generally. Then you move up into April. See, we still, this is the purple line, this is this year. We really bottomed in March, and look, we moved up, just like into April. And typically, you move lower in May. Okay, typically move lower in May, bottom out in June, and usually get bought up. Then you usually sell into September, October, and bottom, and then push up into Santa Claus rise. So that's a seasonality, right? Now, other breadth charts that I like to look at, okay? Bullish percent index. Bullish percent index. Look where we were at April 10th. Only 5% of the NASDAQ 100 was at a buy signal. Wow. I wish I would have. I usually look at these. I wish I saw that. I would have just bought the hell out of it, right? Because look, this is the last 5 years. We haven't even seen that. The last time was 2022. So pretty crazy, right? If we go to the S&P 500 right now, 67. Oh, I was going to show you that. Hold on a second. Let me go back to that real quick. I wanted to show you the reading. So this is another maybe frothy indicator. Look what usually tops here, right? We're at 74% of stocks in the NQ100 are at buy signals. Okay, 74%. S&P 500, you're 67% are on buy signals. Remember, all the way down here, April 8th. Okay. Now, one other thing I like to look at is that AAI sentiment, consumer sentiment, not consumer sentiment, investor sentiment. So on bullish, there's only 21% of them are bullish. Okay, but the bearish is getting less. All right, so we were all the way up here, 60, almost 62% of them were bearish. Now 55% of them are bearish, so still more bearish, right? Just wanted to show you those charts to give you an overview of what I'm looking at. Okay, now we can get over to the daily charts here. And to see some important levels. All right. All right. So looking at the SPY, right? You look at the SPY, we have this uptrend line, right? 2024 anchor VWAP. And we were battling this level, right? And we finally filled that gap that was right here, right? Day before. Yesterday, look, we pulled all the way back where? The 2024 anchored VWAP. Right there. That's where we pulled back to 9 EMA daily. Right there. Okay? And then we just got bought up. Right? And look, like I said, we closed right at the prior day's close to end flat. Now, we are at where? 560. We're all the way up here. Now, where does that line up with? The anchored VWAP of this year. Right there. The 50-day moving average is a little below that. So this is where I'm saying, and you got this big congestion here. Now, the market can move, right? No doubt about it. It can move up. But this is going to be tough sledding. And I just showed you the 80-something% of the market is over a 20-day simple moving average. But we have Apple and Amazon reporting. If they have good earnings, we're going to get juiced a little more. Then after that, I don't know, right? Anchored VWAP. This means sellers have been in control since the beginning of the year. Over this, buyers are in control. So very pivotal levels. Okay. Now, let's look at futures. What is that showing us this morning? Okay. This is futures. So you can see that big dip down. And where are we at? 50-day moving average. Right there in futures. 50-day. Okay. Let's look at the Qs. Qs getting a lot of love from Meta and Microsoft. Okay. So yesterday, look, we broke the 2024 anchor view up, hit the 9 EMA daily, and look, we closed slightly under the previous day's close. What did we tag at the top? 50-day moving average, right? So yesterday, that was resistance, right? Anchored VWAP for the year is 481. We, in the NASDAQ, you're above that right now. You're above that. So you're about 483. You're up right above here. And you have a trend line that lines up exactly with this area. You're right into this congestion area here, this consolidation area here. 200-day moving average is at 491. This is what, let's see. Is this a bear market rally? I don't know. Right? I don't know. We're going into a seasonally bearish month. I do not know. This market was due for a rally. we're getting it. Okay, let's look at the NASDAQ futures. Okay, over the 50-day moving average, and right at, now because we're in a new month, last month's highs, which is right here. Okay, last month's highs, new month. Okay, that's what's going on there. Now if we look at the bond market, all right, remember I keep talking about how that poor structure to the left, right? This basis trade here from hedge funds. See how we're pushing again? We could, like I said, I really think we're going to probably come back down here. Test at least at 3.99. Okay, so yields are falling, crude is falling. They pretty much go in tandem with each other. All right, so have to watch that. So this is your triple headed. All right, and then we go to your dollar. Now the dollar, remember I'm saying, I think dollar's due for a move. Right now it's still in this range. Once you break out of this range and hold, you could get a little rally in the dollar. Okay, just keep that on watch. All right, now the VIX is your fear gauge, 30 days out, right? And let's look at this volatility. Now we were kind of in this range, and now we're what are we at now? 24.13. So we're still at a nice VIX for volatility for ranges, right? The volume has been pretty low this week, right? But the volatility's up, so you're getting those ranges, right? But volume is low, and I was reading before that some countries are on vacation, or they call it holiday. All right, I think it's Labor Day or something. Somebody else. All right, so that is your triple-headed monster. Now we're going to get into the market profile, volume profile, and just to show you in futures, I'll just show you really quickly. The NASDAQ futures and ES futures. Let me just hold on. Give me 1 second here. Just want to show you where they are with their anchored VWAPs, just so in futures it's always going to be a little different. But if we come here, right here is the anchored VWAP. Actually, these are actually different. Okay, so the blue is the anchored VWAP from all-time highs. So all-time highs, now buyers are back in control from the all-time highs. Look at the NASDAQ. This is from all-time highs. This anchored VWAP, this blue. Buyers are back in control. Sellers are underwater from the all-time highs. So very important. Let's just see how this plays out, right? All right, we're going to move on to the market profile, volume profile analysis. Give me 1 sec while I pull that up. Alrighty. Let's move it over. This is our market profile, volume profile here. That is their NASDAQ. Let's go over to the ES. Did I not do these levels? Hold on a second. Just want to make sure I have the levels all in check. So that was a gap that we finally filled. Okay. This is how I do my levels here. Let's just real quickly, most traded price of yesterday. This is how I do my levels. So we'll go to the NASDAQ. Oh, NASDAQ came at an ultimate balance here. You can see the most traded price of the month and the week are equal. Okay. And we're just gonna, it's probably gonna be the most traded price of yesterday. That's a naked VPOC that's been left. All right, let's just move the right here. All right, so now that's set up. We can go back to the ES. All right, now if we look at what we did yesterday, right? Here's yesterday. Okay. Opened here. Slammed all the way down. Where? Into the end of this demand zone, the beginning of the single prints. Then ripped, consolidated, ripped up, pulled back, and then ripped into the close with Microsoft and Meta. Okay. So we came all the way and broke these lows. And then right here, caught a bid. And then it was all she wrote. Because there was single prints here that they cleaned. So all had to do with my trade yesterday. So now, how we're going to look at this market today. So look what we did. Remember I was talking about earlier in the week, I said this profile had a bullish imbalance to it. Probably the least resistant is to the upside. Now, the market did a little fake out here, go down, but then look, now we have the excess to the upside. So if you looked at this profile, it is a bell curve. So if I was going to look at this, I'd be like, well, this is pretty balanced. We got our move. Do we get continuation today? Or do we go sideways? Don't know, right? We have big earnings after the close. All right. So what's the job of the market now? Most traded price of the week is 55.50. That price is right here. Job of the market now is to move this most traded price of the week up higher, right? Because you want value, this is value, to follow price. Okay. Notice thin volume here, right? You need to establish acceptance up here. If value can't follow price, guess what price does? Returns back to value. That's what happens. Okay. So let's look at this. So we are gapping. So our gap fill is 56.16.50 right there. Okay. So we got an area right here. Let's talk about it. Got kind of like the breakout area. This 55.97. We have the RTHI gap fill 56.16.50. We got the close 56.05. So this area right here becomes a bull defense. Okay, we do got multiple demand zones up here. All right, we are almost 100% net long in the overnight. Okay, to me it points to some type of pullback correction, not a bear or anything. Okay, because settlement and the overnight low are together, and you have the breakout period. So and gap fill. All right, so this could be a very important part for bulls to step up. Bulls to step up. Okay. Now, so that's a current level, right? Now we know the most traded price of the week is the middle of the mean of this balance profile. Okay. So right in here. Okay. We know we got overnight highs 56.62. We know we have a naked VPOC up here at around 56.89. That's just the most traded price of a day that's never been tagged before. Never been tagged. It's never been retested. Okay, so we'll put that up there. Right here. Okay. Definitely I would like to be lean on the bull side. Okay. Now, let's get into scenarios. All right, we're going to start off with the bullish side. Okay. So we know we're 100% net long. We're at the most traded price of the overnight right now, 56.46 about. Okay. New month to date equal month to date anchor VWAP and week to date, they're together right now. Obviously a new I'm sorry, not the weekly. Weekly is down here. The new monthly anchored VWAP started because it's May, right? So we're looking at a bullish imbalanced profile here. You could see that we opened up and now we're consolidating here. I would say this probably points to higher prices. All right. So how am I going to look at this? Right. So we do have demand here. I don't think that demand, let's see here, was broken, was it? No. Okay. So I'm going to leave that there. Maybe that's easier on the eyes for everybody. That's 30-minute bars. That's all the market profile is. All right. So what can we do? All right. What can we do here? So price obviously has support here in this demand zone. All right. Obviously, and the most traded price. So the overnight's right here. We could just pull back and then go up to the overnight highs and test this, you know, naked VPOC. Okay, next demand zone's not all the way up until like 57.40. Okay, I mean supply zone. That's what I meant to say. Okay, do I think that happens? I don't think that's probably the most likely. Okay, so we have just pullbacks, right? And then we have another demand zone right here. Whoop, you can see right here, and we can, that lines up actually perfectly with the gap fill. So we can also take off from there. Okay, but we have this zone here as well. The zone here as well is the open of the overnight, which is the close from yesterday, and the breakout level. So this would be, for me, the last line where I'd really want to get long. That's it. All right, because if you lose this, okay, if you lose this, and you can see there's a little bit of a high volume node here, if you lose that, you're probably going back to at least the mean, and then that's not good. You're going to go back into the reversion to the mean, and if you go back into this range, that's not a very bullish sign. Now, could we pull back here and lift off? Of course, but odds aren't that just not good. Okay, that wouldn't be good price action. All right, that's your bull side. On your bear side, okay, on your bear side, let's get into it here. All right, so we have, actually I didn't realize this, you have a poor high here. You can see the double top here. It's called a poor high in market profile. All right, most times that gets corrected. So like we're also 100% pretty much net long. Okay, people are long from the lows here. People are long from the opening of the overnight. Okay, so any kind of push down would probably cause a little pullback. So if you're a bear and you're like, okay, let's break this poor high. Let's say we break this double top and we fall back into range. Now you got the most traded price of the overnights right here. They're longs. If you take this out, right, we're going to break this support and we're going to fall. And this is where you can probably say, I would probably take a nice profit there at gap fill. Because this is, remember, this is an area that probably is going to get bought. However, if it tries to get bought and it fails, and we cut through, and again, we cut through this region, and why? Because look at this high volume node here. And you break that, we're going back to 55.50. It would get really nasty if you start cutting through here, because now you're going to go to the other side. You're going to go back and revisit here. That's very bearish. Do I see that today? Probably not with Amazon and Apple's earnings. Okay, I could see reversion to the mean. We just have to see. I don't know, right? So that's your ES. Okay, I'm not really crazy about shorts. Okay, if something arises that I'm like, okay, cool, then fine. All right, let's move on to the Nasdaq. Okay, let's look at this together. All right, so I'm going to bring this down. Okay. Now, we have two demand zones here. Most traded price of the overnights here, so it's above that. We are 100% net long. So remember, longs are getting paid from this low. They're getting paid from the low of the overnight, and they're up here. So that's frothy. That doesn't mean, oh my God, we're selling off, overbought. It just means that any kind of little movement down will probably cause some people to take profits. That's all. And then you get like a little pullback, because that's what I'm going to be looking for, that pullback. All right. So we kind of have the same levels here to talk about. Now we do have a supply zone up here. So let's just put that up there. Okay. We do have the most traded prices right here. Lines up with this demand zone. Right. And then you have another demand zone here. And then the other important level here is the yesterday's highs, which encompasses, right, the close, overnight lows, and the breakout of that 196.50, 196.92 level right here. You see that? That's this high. So that's an area. And all these are areas that you can get bought up. It's just a matter of how deep the pullback is. All right, now you do have that bullish imbalance to this profile. Okay, so now I'm going to open this up. I think that's what I'm going to do from now on to make it look like bars. And they're not candlesticks, but they're bars. Everybody knows that looks more pleasing to the eye, probably to most people. Okay, so let's get right into scenarios here, and we can wrap it up. So we're going to start with the bull side. All right, price is right here. So we probably do have some type of little supply zone here. As we just broke to the month-to-date anchored VWAP right here, right? You can see this kind of pulled back and got bought up a little bit, but let's just see what happens here. Most traded prices right here in the overnight. Okay, now you can see the overall, I didn't go over this, but it's very balanced profile in the last week. We finally made a balanced profile with that low move down yesterday, and look, this push that made this profile nice and balanced. So what is the job of the market? We're in ultimate balance right now. That level's 195. The 195 is the most traded price of yesterday, of the week, and of the month. Monster level. That's your bull bear line. So this level here, let's change color here. This level here is everything for the NASDAQ. 195. 195 is defend it, you stay bullish. Okay? So, let's get into it. I don't know if I put this into or not. I'll do it again. I think I did, but let's get into it. All right, so 100% overnight net long. Longs are getting paid from here. Longs are getting paid from here. Okay? We have a very much incomplete profile up here. Like I said, I expect probably the overnight high to get hit. Okay, so in a bullish case, we can push down right to the support. You can see how much this has been supported. These are 30-minute bars. Okay, if this holds, yes, break up, try to knock out that supply zone. All right, and it's going to be the same thing. You pull down to this level. The bottom of this is basically gap fill, and you can get bought. That's very simple. If that happens, great. All right, what probably would be more bear trappy is if you fill the gap, went into this, went through the close of the previous day, but then hit that breakout point, you could start to make your move up as well. After that, I'm probably not interested. Any lower, I'm probably not going to be much interested. Okay, internals have to support that. Of course, you can rip all the way down out of this and then obviously go down here. Remember, that's the bull bear line. Yes, could you jump up here? But that's like picking a bottom. And yes, you probably get a bounce, but you're not going to be up here. Okay, that is the bull. Okay, so for the bear side. All right, let's look at it together. You have this double top here, overnight highs. Now, just a little stat, usually 97% of the time, you always hit the overnight high and overnight low in real-time trading hours. All right, so we're over 100% net long, so I could see us pushing up, hitting this supply zone, right? Maybe getting a lower high. If you start to push through, if you push through the most traded price of the overnight and take out this support, you're probably going to go and test the gap fill right here. Maybe you bounce. However, if you go into this and break this level here, you're going to go to 195. Remember, that's the major level in the NASDAQ, 195, the most traded price of yesterday, the week, and the month. It's a monster level. Okay, it's a monster level. So this could be the support. All right, you lose that, you're going down. I don't, like I said, I don't think that's highly probable just because of the earnings. Okay, just because of the earnings. All right, all right. So that is it today, folks. That is it. Hope you enjoyed that. If you did, smash the like button. That would be much appreciated. All right. And as always, hopefully you can join me every morning. I give you the story of the markets, the market news, the economic calendar, leaders and the laggards. All right. Of course, I give you daily charts and the triple-headed monster. And I just gave you the ES and the NASDAQ futures analysis with long and short trade scenarios. Okay. Hopefully you enjoyed the analysis. And we got our plan. All right. So I'm going to sit back. It's a new month. We'll see what happens. Right. I can see us moving sideways to up today. Big sell off. I don't know, but you never know in this market. It's crazy. Trump can say something. Treasury Secretary can say something. Who knows, right? But you got to trade what's in front of you. All right. So everybody have a great day. I still update my Discord. I haven't been going live much. I'm not saying I'm going to go live, but I've been taking it easy on that Discord. But I still update in the mornings what I'm seeing. Feel free to go there. Links in the bio in the YouTube. So anyway, everybody have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.